we're actually live. So, hey y'all, I am James Wright, and welcome to Jeff's shop.
Hey guys, welcome.
We are having a lot of fun. I actually flew out here for a couple days, and the two of us have been experimenting and playing with things and messing around and breaking things and just having all sorts of fun.
It was a tremendous amount. We learned a lot too.
A lot.
A
Yes.
lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
So we're going to be talking about some of the things we've learned and also celebrating. Jeff and I have been together for 3 years now.
Yeah, a little over actually. Just a little over 3 years.
Kind of crazy. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. We've got a bit of a surprise that Jeff's going to be doing. And we'll have a Q&A at the end. So we got a lot of fun things to cover. So if you have questions, throw those in the chat, and I'll try and keep an eye on that. Unfortunately, my wife isn't here to collate those, but we'll try and do that. Can someone just put in the chat, make sure that the audio sounds good from both of us? Because you never know until you actually turn it on. But so 3 years now.
Yeah, 3 years. It was a discussion. We started taking over. I met you on Coffee and Hand Planes, Greg Rickett's site that he does. You and I started taking over. I said, whoa, wait a minute. We're talking about things that really interest us. And said, oh, and you said, yes, yeah, sure. Call me up, email me. And it started.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about, so those of you who don't know, Hand Planes and Coffee, it happens on Saturdays. It's a really cool program with a group of guys getting together and talking about different topics each time. But that particular one, we were talking about what were the different aspects for tear out. Was it, height, chip breaker, mouth opening?
Oh, yeah. A lot of factors.
Yeah, and so there was discussion going back and forth, and you had made those wedges to test things.
Right, making stuff steeper angles. But my biggest point that I wanted to do is bedding angles. I made planes. I used 45 degrees. Why?
Yeah.
That's what everybody used, so I did it. And it always bothered me. I never thought it through, did it? So I said, hey, what if I made something that you could do tests? You like spreadsheets, right? It's like, great. So we made this. Let's see if we can see this a little bit better.
Oop, helps if this camera's on.
And it's simply...
It's a plane without the body.
Yeah, chip breaker and a holder. And I said, let's mount it in a Bridgeport. We can move the Bridgeport. We can do all sorts of things and just drag it across some wood and see what happens. James, what happened?
So when we put it in the Bridgeport and it's cutting along, and the problem is that there's enough flex in the shaft and the head that if you're taking a 100th shaving, it would dive in 200ths, 300ths, 400ths, and it would catch and then bind in and actually twist on the head. So apparently we needed a body.
So this was a great start, but a failure. Told us what we needed to do. And it's been a while. It's been 3 years, but there's a test rig now.
Yeah. So those of you who don't know, there's an old Japanese video that came out from a university in Japan where they show the curl being formed under a microscope. Oh, yes. And they show it with going against the grain, and they show the chip breaker on there. And really cool information, but it's all in Japanese. And it's an old video that's kind of hard to make out. And I've always wanted to duplicate and redo that. And so it kind of came out, we wanted to do the same thing.
You challenged me. Oh, yeah, you can make that rig, test the beds. No, I have to film it. How are you going to film it? Oh, I have a microscope attached to my camera, which is just amazing. And I said, okay, I'll design around that. And the goal was have this rig duplicatable by anybody using Stanley planes, and a number 10 has a side cut out of it. You can look at it. Hey, what if we put that in? How's your camera work? Worked pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, so as you want to see, the very first test image we did, I put it up on YouTube in Shorts yesterday. And it's going to have a lot more refining. I'm actually going to get this home. And
yeah, this is going with you.
A lot more. I'm going to be putting days and days and days of research and spreadsheets, beautiful spreadsheets coming.
Yeah, so we ended up starting to play with this rig and getting, I'd say, random data points. Just curiosity.
Let's show them what this rig does. So this thing here is, well, a bit interesting. So we've got the plane on top, which is stagnant, and then you've got the block of wood that slides underneath it. And then it's pushed up against a load cell so that we can know how much pressure goes into the plane. Does a higher angle create more pressure, and so on. But
we actually started, we just put random planes in, all bedded at 45. Are they similar pressure going forward, everything else being equal? Well, it was, but everything wasn't equal. More testing, more data points we need. But yeah, a drill is attached to it, drive the wood underneath it, strain gauge registers, there's a controller that gives us data output, and we get the information, we get data points.
we have the plate over here we can put on top, and this allows us to add down pressure so we can test.
They have to be purple, by the way, guys.
Yes. Purple improves accuracy, right?
So, yeah, how much downforce is needed? We actually planed on a scale this weekend, last couple of days, to see how much downforce we're using when we hand plane. Trying to get a sense of how best to use this test rig.
I'll come over here and show you from underneath. So there's a linear guide, linear bearing underneath with a cart on that. And then there's a screw that the drill will run it in and out. And with the drill, then we can either do it slow or we can do it at full speed so we can get the same speed every time.
Hey, does speed in planing matter?
Yes!
I know, another thing we need to get answered.
So we're having a lot of fun with this. But this is what brought the two of us together, is getting to this culmination. And in doing so, Jeff made those wedges to test bedding angles, and then he had all these other ideas for additions to a plane to just make it function better.
Make it more fun. Make it more enjoyable. I mean, still a base Stanley without anything still does great. With a bunch of the stuff that I made, I like to think it makes it better. And you guys proved it did. We've got pretty good sales.
Yeah,
we're doing well.
We're almost 1,000 yolks now, right?
Yeah, over 1,000 yolks. Over 1,000 yolks. I mean, it's just amazing, that many planes. So thank you.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a thank you surprise coming up. We're going to do a surprise.
So I was just going to bet in. Yeah, so he has all these cool products but doesn't have a way to get them to market. And I've got a selling place, but I don't have the cool products. And so it was kind of this, he comes up with them, sells them, and then I ship them and have them on a website. And it actually works out really well.
There'll be surprises to unknown people.
Yeah.
But as a thank you. So yeah, this has been a great journey.
Well, you want to talk about that since we're celebrating 3 years?
Well, yeah, sure, we can. I mean,
Or do you want to do that later?
Well, let's do it formally later, but
Okay.
just to let folks know,
Yeah.
there's a thank you coming out to some folks.
Probably early December.
Sure,
We'll,
that'll work. That'll work.
got some
You'll see. You'll see. Put some smiles on some more faces. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I flew out here 2 days ago, and we've been having fun in the shop. And this is really cool, but we knew we wouldn't have enough time to really test. Our goal was to get this rig. Is this rig working? Is this what we want it to be? Or what changes do we have to make to it? And we've answered almost all that.
Works pretty well.
Yeah.
But you know what's really helped us? The VP60.
Oh, yeah. So those of you who don't know, Bridge City Tools made a plane once.
I got it.
And this thing is, well, here, why don't you, this thing is, well, it looks like a plane, but it's got all sorts of other weird items to it. Here, show the top and looking down into it. It's got other doohickeys. And this is all just designed so that you can set the bed angle to anything you want, from 30 degrees all the way to
90.
What, 90 degrees?
I think you go 90.
Yeah. And it is a massively heavy iron that you can put in there, bevel up or bevel down, depending upon the angle you want. But the chip breaker design on this is unbelievably wild.
It took us a little bit to figure out what it was doing, but once we understood what it was doing, it really, really told us we got to pay attention to chip breakers. I mean, you know it, James. You've played with chip breakers before and what it does. And the chip breaker, I don't know how well we can show this on the camera, is part of this knuckle adjustment. Now, James will do a complete video on this with lots of details and everything. This is going home with James. But
it's that silver piece in the front.
Yes.
Here, you sit down right here.
Sure.
So with this, what you can do, let me get on here. This screw actually moves the chip breaker in and out on, well, basically the lever cap. And what that does is it actually moves it in and out at the same angle as the bed.
And
so
the
that
knuckle moves.
It gets closer to, so you can still have a chip breaker even on your bevels being at weird angles. And then on top of all of this, the screw back here allows you to change the bed angle. But to do that, the mouth actually moves along the body of the plane. So you have to loosen all of these and move these plates forward and backward to match each angle. But the cool thing about this, I mean, really, functionally for planing, is that necessary? No. But for us, we're testing all the bed angles and different things, and that's where this just really shined. We had a lot of fun adjusting the bed angle on that and testing different things.
Yeah, we got a lot of very interesting data points on force. The weight was consistent, and we need to repeat and get more data, but that was great until.
Spreadsheets are developing, so.
Yes. Yes.
But we ran into a problem with the connecting mechanism because we were doing constant adjustments on it.
I think we forced it.
Yeah, apparently there's a little ball bearing that holds in the depth adjuster, and it came loose. And so we were taking it apart to try and figure out what was it, and this little 16th inch ball bearing disappeared. So it's basically useless until I get the new ball bearings in, so stay tuned.
If anybody wants to take one of these apart, we know how to do it.
Yeah.
It's not so bad, actually. It's very, very wonderfully engineered. Couple of springs and a little bit of cleverness and tight fit.
Yeah, very, very well machined.
Oh,
there's over 70 pieces in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to have a video coming out on this soon, actually going through the whole details on it.
And John Economaki, if you're ever watching this video, instructions would have helped us a couple of hours, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But it was fun exploring. And the chip breaker, again, really, and a random piece of walnut with a knot in it. We were just playing, I just grabbed it off the floor, and boy, we had chip out, and we were testing all sorts of different things. It was awesome.
Yeah, the really cool thing about this is the first time we pulled it out, we were trying to figure out the chip breaker and how does that actually function. And I got it right, and with this chip breaker, you can dial it in and get it right on the edge, and we had it, how close, I think we had it down to like, what, 3/1000ths the way, something like that?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Just like right on the edge. To the point where the chip breaker was actually deforming and bending the very tip.
Remember, we were taking the too thick of shavings, and it was like we were forcing shavings through the throat. It was weird.
We were taking 3/1000 shavings through a 1,000th mouth. Yes, you can do that.
No, not recommended. Not recommended.
But we were actually blown away once you get the chip breaker right there. The shaving quality was unbelievable in just through this spot where tear out just inevitable.
Yeah.
And moving the chip breaker back and forth and adjusting the mouth and seeing what characteristics just from visual aspects. I'm really looking forward to putting that on this. And then when I get home, I also have an optical sensor that will give me a numerical number to the smoothness of the surface.
The optical sensor is used in the painting world to register gloss. Mm-hmm. And it tells you, if you have a specification, you have to have a gloss finish. You use a tool such as that to tell you what gloss it is. And we're hoping that'll tell us on surface, because we started seeing at different bedding angles achieving different surfaces. And we need to have data points on that too.
So the spreadsheet we're getting ready for is phenomenal.
Yes. So yes, James will want to know what you guys want tested on planes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, because this has so many applications, from bed angle and skew and mouth closeness and chip breaker, and then combinations of those, as well as surface characteristics, and there's the pressure and force for down as well as along the board, and there's just a lot of data points that I'm going to be spending a lot of time on this.
Yeah. Why is this the best? Maybe it is we might find that this is the best. Mm-hmm. But we know a Norris is 47.5. We know many of the English planes had 50 and 55 degree. Molding planes are close to 60, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different bedding angles. So what works best for us to do things?
Because one thing that Jeff and I talk about quite a bit is you will hear people a lot of times saying, well, I do it this way because I have found this to be the case. And my question is, where is the data on that? I want to see numbers as opposed to, I feel this way, I've noticed this, I've felt this. I want to actually see a numerical value for all of these and have a chart that shows me, this much pressure at this angle. Where's the butter zone on that curve?
Yes, combined with where's the best finish as well.
Yeah,
with that as well. So there's,
got lots of things coming.
We do.
But so this is one part, and a big part. One of probably the reasons we got together. But then there's all sorts of other things that Jeff and I are working on, and one of them is this ripping plane, which I think you guys have seen recently on my channel. And for those of you who haven't, let's set that back there. You got it. For those of you who haven't, this is a ripping plane, and the weird thing about it is it doesn't have an iron. It's got a cutting blade, and this one actually has a wheel that comes out underneath. Let me extend it. And so this wheel under here will rip into the board. And with thinner stock, you can cut from one side and cut from the other side, and then you can snap it and cut the board, and you get a surface that looks like that.
This plane was patented by a Cyrus Kinney out of Ontario, Canada in 1880, and it was made by Sandusky Tools. You've seen a couple of variations of this, right?
Yeah, there's the original one that follows the patent. Oh, I didn't set that up, so I can't sew. And there's original one of the patent where the cutting wheel is actually underneath the handle in the back. And it's an interesting design, but it actually feels better to have it in the middle rather than in the back. At least that's my assumption why. And so this is the later model that they came out with that moves it a little farther forward. And so I did the video on this, and a lot of people were like, oh, I want one of those. But these are really hard to find, and they've gotten very expensive, especially you get one with everything in it, you're talking around $500. And
you called me.
So I said, Jeff, there's a few people who said they'd love to have a kit on this. And Jeff said, hey, ta-da! So, yeah, you found this wheel. Let me bring this in. He found a cutter wheel that is very, very similar in size.
Let's show it.
And came up with a mechanism to put it on there. And so there's the cutting wheel he found for it. And it's a very similar design, just a little less complicated. And so this is the early prototype, which is just to mess around and see with proof of concept. But it works. And we were doing testing on it. And this is the cut that I was getting from the original. And this is the cut we got from that one, which is actually a little bit cleaner.
So we went about 60-70% down on each side, and they just broke the piece off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the rough surface like that, you can always take a plane and smooth it down. But most of the time, when you're working thin stock like this, it's for a drawer bottom, and it's just going into a groove. And so the surface doesn't matter anyways. So it's kind of one of these tools where this is a lot of fun to play with. Is it a functional, usable plane? And that was one of the big questions we had. Is this something that people want? And after playing with it, Yeah, especially if you're working with a lot of thin things for small boxes or drawer bottoms. It is a functional plane. Is it something necessary? No. But it is an incredibly fun plane, and getting a kit where you can make one yourself and play around with that. So I think we've come to the conclusion what will probably be bringing this to market.
We're going to start offering that. It'll be sometime after the first of the year. Got some things to sort out. Guys, you can make it with a tote and knob, or you could make it more like a molding plane where that's what you want to use. Various things. I don't know. We got a few things more to develop, but I think it'll be. You could always use it as a marking gauge too, as well.
Yeah. So yeah, stay tuned. And if you want to see more, I've got several videos on this one, as well as making the fence, because I didn't get an original fence with mine. Though I took measurements to make sure it's approximately the right size of the original. So if you want to see that, it's kind of interesting, but it's coming. So for those of you who wanted it, it's coming.
It's coming. And now for those of you who didn't want something, don't know it's coming, it's coming.
Yeah. There, we got a question. Do you think Stanley did testing similar to that 150 years ago before making their original planes? I would have to say no, because they were not the first. 45 was standard long before Stanley started coming along.
Yeah.
Most wooden jack planes at the time, Victor Bailey made his planes before Stanley, and his were at 45.
I don't know the origin of that. I've not looked.
No, it's just kind of like it's halfway, so it should be. If you imagine the bell curve of where that pressure to function should be, you would just naturally assume halfway, and so it's a good starting point. And there's reasons why some go a little higher and some go a little lower, and 45 is just common.
And it worked well. We know it works well.
It's completely functional, so why change?
So, are we trying to improve the wheel? Yes.
We're trying to find absolute perfection.
Yes. Well, there are times when you want a plane to do that final finish. The wood is doing nasty stuff to you.
Yeah.
You don't want to pull out sandpaper. So if you had an arrow in your quiver that would do just that one function, it might help. We'll see. We'll see where that goes.
I'm just saying, the individual skew. Just to play devil's advocate, wouldn't the mechanism of an individual skew from setup like this, it may actually be that those individuals get better results because of the way they are structured? Sorry, I don't know what you mean by that either.
But we have started playing with skew.
Yeah.
And we'll see where those results go. Right now, they didn't make sense.
Yeah, because we started at 90 degrees, and 10 degrees, you got a little bit more tear out. 20 degrees, you got a little more tear out. 30, 40% degrees, you got a little more tear out. And then 50, it got better. And 60, it got better.
That was odd.
And so, yeah, we needed, that was just one quick sample from each one.
And we were lucky. You always got to get lucky, right? I picked up a piece of walnut off my shop floor with a knot in it, and we were just using it to play around
Chasing that knot down the board as we got... This is now 3/4 thick. Originally, it was about 2 inches. And we just... Because that knot travels right down through the wood, so...
But it was so good because it gave us
it gave us that exact same spot on each one. So
very fortunate.
One of the things when I do the test is I want to get a beautifully straight grain maple on a wide board, and I want to cut it at an angle out of that board so that I get the exact same tear out, the exact same against the grain all the way down the board.
Yes.
And that way I can do test after test after test on the exact same piece of wood, rather than bouncing between them to get differences. All the way from South Africa. Hey.
Oh, that is awesome. Hi, thanks for joining.
So, after playing with these, then Jeff found these things.
Well, you guys don't know, I'm going to out Rex Kruger on this. Rex and I chat a lot about hand planes. He is a wealth of information on hand planes, has many, he's very curious about hand planes, so we talk, we chat. And one day he says, hey, we're talking about stuff, and he said, do you know what a Lancashire patent plane is? I said, huh? As I'm Googling away, and it's one of these.
Here. 3.
So we're chatting, and I'm going, oh, that's kind of cool. These have a long history of being maybe made by 1 or 2 manufacturers in the UK in its day, but the vast majority were craftsmen made. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. And I wanted to explore what could happen making them. I made some wood prototypes, doing some things, playing around with different things without having one in my hands, just trying to see what the ergonomics are and some of the geometry and what could happen. And I was underwhelmed. So
Yeah, he sent me one of these, and I tried it a few times, and it's just like, it just doesn't feel good, and I'm not getting any results from it, and honestly, I found it to be a very annoying, but I mean, it's a quickly put together prototype.
So Rex and I were chatting, and he says, we got to buy one. All right, no, I'll buy one, Rex. So I bought one. I got one. I've got an original. This is original. It's a chisel blade cut down. It looks homemade, craftsman made. Guys, I couldn't make a shaving. I should be able to make a shaving somehow. And then it occurred to me to check it, and it is not 90 degrees. It's not even close. It's the Pexto of Lancashire patent planes.
No, it's like 82 degrees. It's off by a considerable amount.
And I looked at the scratch pattern on it, and I go, this wasn't used. So Rex and I are laughing about this, and he says, I'm going to buy one. He wanted one. So we did. And we got this one. Let's show this a little bit better.
The handle on this is
This
different.
one's 90. This one's at 90. And it works much better. It actually works. It works well. So,
Give me the other one. I'm going to show the handle
Sure.
differences. So this one is basically a tote at 45 degrees, whereas this one is a tote at 90 degrees, but it's twisted off at a weird angle. So, yeah, very different grip, very different feel.
everything's very different. So we took out a Stanley number 10 Coachmakers rebate plane. We took out a shoulder plane. We took this out. Let's go use it. How are we going to use this?
Yeah. What is that plane for?
Exactly. And is it better than the 010? Is it better than a shoulder plane? Where are you going to use it? What's it going to do? And we played with this for a bit. And we concluded that it has a very small application. Maybe it's a smidge better. I tend to think it might be really useful as a small shooter. If you're using a bench hook, put it down quickly. You could shoot something very quickly, not have to take a bigger plane out. And boy, the weight difference between a wood mock-up and this made all the difference. So this hits one of my most important aspects, fun.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun tool. I think it'll be fun to make. I think it'll be fun. So this is going to be developed as a kit sometime after the first of the year a bit. Two pieces.
It's kind of like a rabbiting plane, but at vertical rather than horizontal. So it works great for large tenons. I was playing with it, starting a rabbit with it, and you can use it like a rabbit plane. And it's got other functions to it, and it's kind of just a very different way of doing the same thing.
One of the things we found quite easily, we didn't like this handle. Even this is much better than this one, by far. But still, we wanted the handle here. Actually, James, you were using it on the pull stroke quite a bit and found that better. So
wanting to grab on the iron rather than back on the body. Sort of like if you use this as a shooter, you tend to grab it on top by the frog rather than back by the handle as a shooter.
And now, some of the planes from back when these were made by the craftsmen is you had pieces of wood that went over like this, not a traditional handle. There's many different things. Yeah. We have work to do.
Yeah. But it's one of those planes that there really wasn't a standard made. There wasn't like a Stanley that made them. And there were a lot of shop-made modifications or shop-made entirely. That
shop made wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, for those of you who think that people in the past always made the best tools possible, the good ones just never made it. The bad ones just never made it down to us. They were thrown in the trash long ago. Someone got mad and threw it across the room.
Yes, absolutely. So that's been fun. We learned a lot playing with these. Absolutely. Do we have some more questions we want to
I was just reading back down through
from
this.
the chat?
Sorry, I ran into the chat cap. Oh yeah, sorry. Iron. Is the Lee Valley PMV11 iron worth it for my old Stanley number 5? Ooh, iron test. Okay, if you want to know, go on YouTube and search for Wood by Wright iron test. I have now, I think I'm up to 46 irons that I've tested.
Wow.
And put them all through a rig to see their durability, their functionality, their hardness, all of the parameters you look for. The PMV11 is very, very good. But there are new ones that are significantly better at around the same price point. Particularly right now, the best one on the market for the price is the Lake Erie in my book.
Yes, I like it a lot.
It is it's a MagnaCut, it's a newer steel on the market, and it is incredible. It lasts forever. In my book, the absolute best to buy anywhere is the Zinwu. It's also a MagnaCut, but you're going to be paying the price of buying like a brand new Lee Nielsen just for the iron. So he's binty. It should be good for that.
Yeah, he does multiple materials, titanium
yeah,
as well as the steel.
His best one is a titanium body with a laminated MagnaCut, and it's all hand carved in the titanium and just gorgeous. But yeah, it's different.
You're commenting on the chisel. How often you like one of his chisels? Same steel.
No, that one's a slightly different steel.
Oh, it is. I
Yeah,
didn't
the
know
MagnaCut
that.
doesn't do quite as well under impact.
Okay.
It's great at shearing, but if you're using it for something you actually impact with a mallet, it doesn't do as well.
Okay. Cool. Good to know.
But yeah, the one thing about the test on that is on the spreadsheet I created it with all of the different characteristics, each individually ranked. And what you can do is you can go into the spreadsheet and change the weights you want on each one. So which characteristic is most important to you, and then it will resort and recategorize them all to what is important to you in your iron, and you'll get a very different result. So yeah, it's kind of fun to go and play with. I love numbers, if you can't tell.
Cool.
So what was next? Has anyone found that plane in a catalog? No, these were not something you would find in a catalog. They're not from a standard company.
I think I did find one or two manufacturers in the UK listed that had made them, but the vast majority of these were craftsman made. Yeah. Or maybe somebody was making the castings and then they were taking it and going from there.
Now, to understand English tool making, you had like the Sheffield area, you would have dozens and dozens of plane makers. And each one of them was making the same pattern that all the others were making, but they were making with their own style and their own flair. And you could order kits from them that you would order all the metal parts, and you as the maker would add the wooden parts to it. And there were a lot that were very, very similar and very, very unique. And there weren't as much of standard catalog as you would find, as we think of like when you think of Stanley and Victor and the standards that came a little later.
And these are not super common. They do show up in auctions every now and again, and they're not inexpensive.
they're bring a good pocketbook. Will the kit be a bronze body?
Yes.
Oh, for this, yeah.
Yes, so the kit is going to, the concept right now, it's going to need some more prototypes, obviously, once I get to metal, but it's going to be a file to fit. We're going to have a piece of steel and a piece of bronze, and you'll file to fit.
So a steel sole, well, actually with
side.
Yeah,
this will be the sole. Bronze will be the sole.
Bronze will be where the mouth cuts, and then steel will be the bottom that it would write on, which, yeah, it's one of those things. I would call that the sole, but then it's the plate, because I would call, yeah.
It won't be that many dovetails for you guys to work on. Maybe 4 or 5, I'll lay it out, to do it. It's slow, fussy work. The peening should not be terrible. We'll have some guides on how to do that, and
Yeah, similar to like a St. James Bay kit.
oh yes,
How he has the roughly cut, roughly shaped, and then you just come through and file them into the correct shape until they fit.
an entry tool to dovetail planes.
Yeah, and bronze peening and dovetailing is actually far easier than you think, because if you make any mistakes in filing and cutting, when you go to peen it over, you're actually crushing it and pushing it into the gaps, so there aren't any gaps when you're done.
So is your channel going to evolve to metal by right? as you show a bunch of techniques and stuff?
I had originally thought about doing a metal by right channel, but
have
getting
you?
it into blacksmithing. But
Well, so one of the things we're going to drag you guys into is using woodworking techniques and tools that you already have on metal.
yeah,
It's not that bad.
in bronze and aluminum, brass, you can plane bronze.
Yes,
actually,
you can.
I have a video planing down a strip of bronze and getting this little bronze curl coming out. It's really kind of cool.
I use a chisel when I make planes.
Yeah.
I mean, to remove stuff. So yes, you have an interesting future ahead of you. Stay tuned.
But so we're doing these, and then Jeff decides to take me over to the dark side.
It's not the dark side. It's just loud.
Yes. So what would happen if you took a plane and you put it on top, and then you ran a belt sander underneath it, and the belt sander would grab the wood and push it past the plane, so you get a shaving coming out of the plane.
Should I even turn it on when you show it?
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to turn it on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
you want to go over there. So this is on the other side of the shop because it's something I can't bring over here. But let me zoom in.
It won't fit in carry-on luggage?
No, it won't fit in my carry-on luggage. So, yeah, there's a jointer, but that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at this green thing over here. This is what's called a super surfacer. So, what did you tell us about this?
It's a fixed blade. It's a fixed blade. Blade here. The wood gets pushed under the blade. The shaving comes up. It's pretty straightforward. You can adjust the skew. It's actually a pretty simple machine when you get down to it. It just wants
It's about, what, 5 inches wide?
I think this is 6, but yes, it's.
Yeah.
And these were made by Hitachi, Ryobi, Makita back in the day in the 80s. They're much more common in Japan. They use them for many things, and we had a lot of fun. I always wanted one. I always wanted one, and I bought one from Japan.
Yeah, shipped it all the way over from Japan.
And you can still find them on eBay. They do sell them. There's an Achilles heel. This belt here is a big rubber band. Big rubber band. And if you're not set up perfectly, the rubber band's spinning like this, and the wood's not moving, and it polishes, and it just not destroys itself, but it glazes.
Yeah.
And we were sanding this with 80 grit sandpaper and putting a product called Rubber Renew on it to try to get it grippy. We did. We got it working much better, but a lot of us like hand quiet time down in the shop.
Yeah, okay. This, you think of this is a big hand plane, and this is what it sounds like. Oh, yeah. Even the... And we're back. even the height adjustment on this is...
I think it's on the down. I did take this apart. I lubed and cleaned, and that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. But I do have a whole video coming out on this. We shot a whole one yesterday, so stay tuned. That'll be coming out in a week or two.
We need to show them the shavings we took off of that
Oh
piece
yeah,
of
I'll
kaya.
turn on to that. So this we were having a lot of fun with yesterday. But the cool thing on this is you can actually take on top the iron that goes across 90 degrees. You can rotate it to any of the degrees, and so that's what we were testing, 10 through 60 degrees, and actually seeing what was the finish coming out of it. So that was kind of interesting. But let me show you the shavings. I had a post on Instagram actually showing the shavings coming out and asking people what tool in the shop made these, and no one guessed it. But these here, focus. These are the shavings that came out of it as we were doing. Actually, that board right there. But these are. Oh, here, let me move this in. They're incredibly wide, and we were able to get shavings at 2/1000ths out of that.
I think those are closer to
full width.
three.
These ones are like 3 or 4.
4.
But we were getting them thinner than that at full width all the way down. And
but guys, this is I believe it's Kaya African mahogany. It was on the quarter. It had ribbon stripe to it. It had all sorts of things that would aggravate the bejeebas out of you. Hand planing.
yeah, and it would take this board and it would throw it.
Yes, it did. And we had, unfortunately, because our rubber drive belt was by that time not working as well, we were actually pushing it through.
Yeah. Well, it's a pain because you adjust it and it goes, and you're trying to get that middle spot where it gives it just the right pressure to go through, but not so much that it would bind up. Because if you had too little pressure, it wouldn't have enough grip on it to push it through. If you had too much pressure, then it would bind up and push into the blade.
But the adjustments are all there, just like a hand plane.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could adjust the
Chip
depth,
breaker, angle,
Yes.
depth.
everything.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I really, really wish it was quieter. Now, I say that there are quiet tools. They cost a lot more than something like that. They're still made. Google away. You'll see amazing stuff happening.
Now, there are some where you run it'll run through one way and then turn the blade and run back through the other way and then turn the blade and run back, and it'll automatically go back and forth, taking shavings off.
And you'll see full width shavings just pouring on. They're fun.
Yeah.
They're fun.
It's
Again, that's what I'm about. I want to have fun.
a crazy amount of stupid fun.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. We were able to even use, we even put this little piece through.
You could never run this through a power planer, but it would run this little piece through because it doesn't care. I mean, you could probably run through pieces like 2 inches and it would still, as long as you get your fingers in there close, but
No, I'm not going to do that.
it would still plane it through.
That went through, and we got, this was off a bigger piece of walnut, but
Yeah,
don't knock over all the cameras. And it was giving us,
all of these shavings came out of it. And they're good, fluffy shavings. Yeah, we had some people saying that it was creating a spill plane shavings.
that was probably closer to the 60 degrees because the other ones were coming off, yes.
Because this would be coming straight out of it, and then if you turned its angle, you'd be getting that. And then we had, here, where are these ones down here? These ones were the steeper angles.
So as you skew, your shaving changes in profile. Does that affect the surface? Not sure. Needs more test sheets. More.
Yes.
Needs more.
So do you want to show that?
Do I really want to show that?
Yeah, people don't want to see what's over there.
All right, show them what's over there. Show them what's over there.
So, for those of you wanting to know, we've been talking about this for a while, and one of the reasons why I really wanted to work with Jeff is to bring back Reed planes. So if you don't know, Jeff in the 80s made. You want to set that down here and show them what you.
So yeah, I made a number 3 size, a number 4 size, a number 5, and a block plane out of bronze, and I stopped. And what you're seeing over my shoulder here is stuff I had put aside, and it came time to go back to it, and I've machined a whole bunch of this stuff up. There's rejects in here I put aside for whatever reason, but my process, I had to do other things before I got to this. That's why it took so long, I got to tell you guys. But these are going to be for sale. We're going to start, I'm going to be writing up everything. James will be selling them, and you'll be getting a personalized plane. The idea is you're going to put a deposit on the plane. We're going to chat. You're going to decide what woods you want to use. I have a whole assortment of woods we can use. I don't use tropicals anymore. So if you want something I don't have, you provide it. the blade. I have Lake Erie Toolworks blades that are going in these. And we're going to decide on the surface finish, and you're going to get a personalized plane. We'll talk about the mouth, how thin or thick a shaving you're going to take, how you're going to use the plane. So we're going to personalize these, and they'll be for sale. And if this goes well, we have data from that. There's got to be another version in the future, but we'll see. Well, that's just talking the future. So these are what's going to go. And guys, they're not going to be inexpensive. There's an incredible amount of time doing it. I'm settling on some pricing right now. A small smoother out of bronze will be $1,800. A smoother out of bronze will be $2,000. Cast iron, $1,500 range. Some of them will never make the light of day. And these very large, very heavy, number 5 size will be $2,500. I have 2. These are a tremendous amount of work to get to where I want them to be, and I'm not sure these will ever be made again. So that's the direction I'm going in. Stay tuned for lots of fine details that James will present to you guys. But yes, they're for sale. I mean, some of these can be resurrected, and the other thing that's going to happen is when you're working with castings, you machine, you find defects, things happen. Things happen as you do things wrong and you can't fix it. So if you want a plane and something goes bad in my process, I'm not going to just say, no, I couldn't complete your plane. The price goes down based on what we're able to accomplish to get to the end product, because I want to put out a good product. And they're all bedded at 45 in case you're curious. And I kind of like them. They work pretty well. So that's what's happening there.
Yeah, so that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to work with it, bringing Reed planes back and actually being able to do that. But every time I talk to Jeff, he's got some new idea. Hey, have you ever heard of this? It's kind of fun to play with. And 99% of the time, it's something that's very interesting. And every now and then it's something that's like, why in the world would you think of that? But
I mean, we've had some stuff that didn't work out well. I mean, just before, can I put my hands on it? No, yes, I can. This didn't work out.
oh yeah, they had here, let me put this on here. So Carbide plane blades. You always think about getting a harder and harder blade. So why not bump up to a Carbide blade? Well, Carbide by itself would be too brittle to use as a full plane blade, but what about if you just laminated a piece on the edge and used that, sort of like how circular saw blades work? And so Jeff made up, how many of those did you make?
I made a half dozen
half
of them.
dozen, yeah. I think I have 2 of them still at my house. But
Lots of problems using Carbide to do this.
yeah, because I sharpen completely by hand, and I found that if there was any variation, or if I lifted up on it, I could actually chip the tooth in sharpening, because I'd be putting all the weight right on the tip, and it would chip.
But also the angle had to change. In other words, all the angle. I had to figure out what angles were going to work and what was going to happen, and it was fun. I learned a lot. I mean, they lasted pretty well in your testing. Once you got it right. Yeah. But then we started testing Lake Erie and Luke's tools, and it's like, no,
You get all the durability without all the problems.
But I remember, and I'd love to know if somebody else remembers this or ever using this. I'm going to think in the 70s, block plane blades that had this. And guys were using them on plastic laminate to trim edges and do things. They were made, and as I researched, there are some brazed Carbide on plane blades that I've seen when I've asked this question before. So they do exist. They are out there. People have done this before. I didn't invent anything.
Veritas, wasn't it, that made them?
No, this
was it Veritas?
I don't think so, but I might be wrong. But I saw some pictures. I don't know where it was. I'm thinking the UK. I've got a picture of a blade with a just a soldered piece of carbide in there that somebody was using. But what gets me, if they were doing that back then, no one had diamond stones back then. How are they sharpening?
Yeah.
This is,
It would take forever in Arkansas.
I don't know how it was doing it. So yeah, using diamond stones was one of the things that said, well, maybe this will work because diamond stones will cut this pretty easy.
Yeah. If I were sharpening with a jig every time, and I was on diamonds, it would work. But it would just be a bit of a pain, and there's just always a little bit on there, and yeah, it's just.
But you don't use jigs. I don't.
No.
Wait. I make jigs. I want to talk about that for a sec, if we don't have too many things.
Yeah.
The problem we had and what was solved. So, we make jigs, but the set screws. Oh, I got to find that now. Here it is. So I was never happy with the set screws as to what was going on.
So to let people know, when these sharpen, you have set screws on the end that go through the body, and it gives you 3 points of contact, 1, 2, and 3, and it sits in on the rods and then gets pinched between these 3 set screws as these come together. But the cool thing about it is you can adjust those in and out to put a skew onto the blade so you can sharpen at a skewed angle. But that means running these set screws in and out of the block all the time.
Well, yeah. So you want them to stay in place. Loctite, guys. Let's use Loctite, right? Let's use a little Loctite, guys. Purple Loctite, the lowest grade Loctite, is designed to hold a fastener in one position. Does that very well. Actually, I'm going to tell you it does it really well, and I've made these that just almost had to drill them out. So what I would use is I would get the Loctite to dry, set, run them back a few times, and you have like interference in the threads, so it doesn't want to vibrate. It takes more force to use. Mm-hmm. And I was never happy with that. But I did come up with this product called VC3. And
right here.
Oh, right there?
Yeah.
Thank you. VC3. And all my new honing guides are going to be having this, and I'm using it on other things in the shop as well. It is more of an anti-vibration. Here, let's show this a little bit. You put a little bit on the threads, and I think it's a good product that you're going to find uses for in your shop, and that's why I'm presenting this. I mean, people say they use it for the eyeglasses, the little screws that vibrate loose. I mean, they use it on that.
It adds
for everything.
friction to it so that it requires a certain amount of friction to move, but when you move it, it's still there, so that every time you move it, it still has that same friction.
Now, eventually it'll wear off.
Yeah.
It'll only go so much.
But it's not like the Loctite when you finally break it, then it's no longer there, and it's kind of just a gummy blah.
VC3, check it out. It's inexpensive. A little tube like this is $6 or $7, and you'll find uses in your shop for it, I'm sure.
Yeah, one question he asked, are those, this is from Dennis Miko. Hey, Dennis. Hey, long time no see. We need to get back and doing lives again. Dennis asked, are those planes patented?
Patented? No. No, they're not. I specifically chose not to patent it. It's quite costly and involved, and spending that money means I have to have lawyers chase somebody if they do. No, it doesn't work for me. Anybody want to copy it, please do.
In the hand tool world, patents really don't have much use. Unless you're making something wildly new.
Yeah.
And in that case, you're probably doing something wrong.
Is there anything new in the woodworking tool world?
No, everything's just a slight modification of other things, and the amount of sales are really not going to. No one who has the industry and capability to produce something at a large enough mass will make enough money to make that worth it.
Now, I suspect Veritas, Lee Valley, they patent a bunch of stuff, but
yeah, they're the one, because a lot of their planes, Veritas is very, very good about taking the standard plane and throwing it out the window and starting over.
Sure.
Because like their custom planes are just a wildly different cast, wildly different mechanisms, and they do come up with new things. But I would say most of the time they're pretty safe because the amount of effort it would take to do that would be, there just aren't many companies that can step up and do that, to actually do something that's worth messing with someone.
Yeah. And I like to think I'm standing on the shoulders of giants behind me. I haven't invented anything, but I'd like to meet some people, Mr. Bailey, and chat with him, but...
Here's one. Ever tried Teflon tape for that?
No, I haven't tried Teflon tape, putting it on. I guess I could. But Teflon doesn't make it a little more slippery, or it also binds it a bit?
It can bind it a bit. From the times I've used it in the past, it will work once, but the first time it moves, it's gone.
The advertisement for this product says, I think 6, 8, 10 adjustments before you need to drop more. You don't need much. This will last quite a lot. You can buy it in big containers as well, which I'll get soon. But I think it's much better than Loctite for this application, as well as many other applications. You'll have set screws in your shop or a PV60 plane that you need to do some stuff with. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Hopefully that can help you get out of some issues.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. And it also comes in a tape format, kind of like a Teflon.
Oh yeah,
tape.
it does. Yeah, for bigger fasteners.
Yeah. Hey, from the Netherlands, how's it going? What's the best glue for outside? Yeah, I have I have a lot of videos on glue testing.
You're going to be redoing that again soon, aren't you?
Yeah, as I have a long-term test that I tested the top 7 glues from each category, 7 different ones, and I have them sitting in my garage all in the same atmosphere, and I test them every year. Initially, I was testing them every 6 months, and I've now shifted to once a year. I think I'm coming up on year 5 or 6, something like that. And it's really interesting to see which glues, like super glues, their strength died off pretty quickly. But some of them took longer to cure. The high glues actually got a little stronger. But for exterior, do not use Type Bond 3. It says waterproof. It is not.
Water resistant?
Now, it will be water resistant.
Okay.
It is far better than most other PVAs. But you get it wet enough, and it will fail. I had several of those in the testing rig that didn't even make it to the testing rig because they fell off when they got fully soaked. It's not a serious bond. If you are trusting the glue for an exterior application, don't use Type Bond 3. But there are a few that are good. The wood resin glues.
Resorcinol style glues?
Yeah, those are great. My go-to is still epoxy. Because you can get a phenomenal bond, and it does not care about water at all. It's almost identical. Your wood will be failing long before that does. But there are a few. But when I need something and I'm trusting it for exterior, it's epoxy.
Now, epoxy is another benefit if you're using it exterior, is use it as the primer as well, and then put your top coat on it, and you have quite a durable finish. Yeah. It will fail eventually. I've done it. It does, but it's kind of an interesting way to do some things.
Yeah, you can get a really thin penetrating epoxy that'll kind of soak into the surface that you can then put other things on top.
But it's UV sensitive, so you need a top coat of a UV protector.
Like a marine varnish or...
Yes, I did that on my water bottle holders, and they're on my bike now, and they last quite a long time.
Yeah. Especially with all being glue. Did you use epoxy for your lamination?
Yes, epoxy for lamination, but then you have splotchy. It gets splotchy. Yeah. You sand it, and then I just would coat it as a primer, 2 or 3 coats of epoxy, and then I clear coated with conversion varnish, sprayed it on. But you could use exterior poly, all sorts of other things. Yeah. And
for those of you who want to see the video on his wooden water bottle holders, bike mounted, they're really kind of a fun design. He made an entire bike
don't,
out of wood.
No. Yes, I do crazy things.
As well as the surfboard and other things. Epoxy adhesive. I have one other comment up here. If anyone has comments, throw them in the chat. Otherwise, we're probably going to wrap this up in about 2 or 3 minutes. But there was one comment earlier I wanted to get back to. Could I use black locust 4/4 boards that are quarter sawn and laminated to make a jointer triplane?
Black locust is a good wood. I don't have a problem with that. I don't know how stable it is. I don't remember, but it's a good exterior wood as well.
Stable, yeah. It's a very, very durable wood.
Yes.
Very good wear resistance. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people really poo-poo laminated planes, but honestly, as long as you're not, using them in underwater conditions.
What, plane underwater? Is that a test?
I need to do this. Aren't you? We need to do this sometime. I need to do some underwater carving. But yeah, laminated planes aren't a problem at all. But locust would be a good one.
Cool. Oh gosh, look at that question.
Ever made wooden shoes? Yes, I have. I'm not wearing them today. They don't travel where people look at you funny when you walk into an airport with them.
Have you done that?
Yes, I have.
All right. TSA has you on speed dial?
Yeah. Clippy, cloppy, clippy, cloppy, clip. Yeah. I have not fully carved out the cavity. I buy the blank, and you can actually buy the blanks on Amazon. And they sell them as complete shoes, but no, they're actually blanks that are intended to then be carved to match the foot.
What wood species are they?
Usually poplar.
Poplar, okay.
Yeah, poplar or willow. Those
Willow.
are the two
Oh,
common
I've
ones.
never used willow for anything.
Very similar.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're very easy to carve, and what you do is you put your foot inside and you wear them for a little bit, and you'll feel that this spot just hurts. I don't like that. So you take a hook knife, you reach in and you carve that spot. And then you wear them for a little bit and they're like, no, this spot hurts. And you take a hook knife and you carve that. And after a week or so of doing that a couple times a day, you get a shoe that just feels great and it matches your foot exactly. And I love them. That's the reason I wear them every day. But yeah. James, afraid of what people think. Yeah. No, sometimes I'll bring them if I'm going to a conference. I'll wear them at a day on the conference and walk around. They're not great for continuous walking because your foot has a very different gait when you're taking a full stride. It's completely doable. It's just they feel very weird. But for like in the shop where you're shuffling and you're always taking small steps around, they're great because standing on them is amazing because they cradle your foot exactly to match your foot, so you don't have any pressure points. And yeah, great for that, but not for long distance. Although I do know one guy who plays soccer in them.
What?
Yeah, but
okay.
you can do it. It's just
not for me.
cool. I think we've reached the end of the questions. Anything we want to talk about?
I just want to thank you.
This has been a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, and as I'm sure you folks realize, James gets lots of requests for lots of things.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, you do. It's part of what you do as a YouTuber, and he was gutsy enough to go, maybe there's something here. The beginning of our relationship was sort of different than it is now, but you stuck with it. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for your fun ideas and cool pieces. Honestly, my favorite smoothing plane is still the one. Well, just like this one with the reed parts and everything's filed to fit and nice and tight, and it wouldn't be without you and your fantastic ideas.
Thank you. It's fun, and obviously folks like it, so we're selling more. Yeah. I've got. Oh, by the way, you don't know this. I've got an order from the foundry coming in today. I got a notification. So we have
cool.
More stuff coming, guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, just make sure there's any last minute comments. Amazing to prevent a thorn in your foot. Yes, you could cut the top of the piece. Yeah, a lot of the common shoes, the top is leather to conform to your foot, so there's more flexibility to it. But yeah, I like wood because then I can carve the top and make it look funky. Cool. Well, I think that'll about do it. So until next time, have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Bye. Now, the game of finding the off button. Ah, there it is. Cool. 388 people.
I think that went very well.
Yeah.